Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today on our weekend. I like doing our weekend shows. I don't know why. I just feel a little bit more relaxed than I normally do. Probably because I know once the show's done, I can go back to bed. That's a good thing about the weekends. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys are having a terrific start to your weekend, wherever you are in the world, to all of you, my international friends, and all of you right here in North America as well. And you know what? I saw how great was, I thought the opening ceremony of the Olympics were great. I got a big chill watching them. I really love both the opening and the closing ceremony of the Olympics, both winter and summer. I always get a big kick out of them. Make me believe in humanity for a second or two. It's a nice feeling, no matter how fleeting. All right, guys, here's how today's show is going to go. I have picked out 4 topics that you guys have sent in to me to tell me you want me to talk about. How do you get a topic or question on the John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put that word topic in the subject line, guys. Very important. And as always, make sure you keep those emails to 90 words or less. To be really honest with you, the shorter the better, but absolutely no longer than 90. Sometimes you guys send me these mini novels, and it's like, how am I supposed to use these? I can't even use those. But then after we do these 4 main topics, then I'm going to take some time and go to your live questions as well. 2 ways to get live questions on, of course. Primary ways to use Super Chat. It guarantees your question gets on the show, and it's also a great way to support the channel. Thank you so much for those of you guys who do. And then if there's still time after that, and I'm probably going to go about an hour today. I don't like to go an hour on the weekdays. On the weekends, I take a little bit more time. So maybe we'll have some time to get over to Twitter as well. All right. With all that out of the way, let's dive into the first emailed in question of the day. And the first question today comes to us from Jesse Whitford, who writes, John, been watching since the Man of Steel review. Well, thank you so much. My question is, I saw that He-Man is, again, looking for another director. Do you think this movie will ever get made? It has a December 19th, 2019 release date. Yeah, well, okay. So for those of you who have not heard or haven't been keeping up on this, so David S. Goyer, prolific writer, he was one of the screenwriters on the Dark Knight trilogy, and he's done a whole bunch of other things too. He's also done a little bit of directing, not as much success as a director, but pretty solid as a writer. So anyway, David Goyer wrote a script for Masters of the Universe He-Man, right? And the studio really liked it. So much so that they decided they wanted him to also direct it. Okay. So then they even announced a release date. And then nothing, and then nothing, and then nothing. And of course, we've gone through this drama with Masters of the Universe before. They've been trying to get another version of this going for a while. And yesterday or the day before, whatever, it got announced by Variety that David Goyer has passed on directing it. So they lost their director. Now, because he was the guy they wanted as the director, and it took months, apparently, for him to take a pass, and he's passed on it. So now here we are. We're in 2018. This movie's supposed to come out in 2019. They do not have a director. Apparently, they still like the script, and apparently David Goyer is going to stay on the film as an executive producer and as a writer for any changes they might want to make to it. But they're on the hunt for another director. Look, I've been saying this for a while. I will say it again. I do not believe this movie's getting made. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to get made. I'm saying I don't believe it's going to get made. It very well could. I mean, clearly, there are people at the studio who want this film made. And as long as you have people in the studio who want a film made, it's possible that film's getting made. Absolutely it is. I'm just saying I have my doubts. I have been doubting it ever since they were talking about it in 2017. I've never felt like this is something that's actually going to happen. Now, who knows? Maybe it happens in 2020. Maybe it happens in 2021. Maybe it happens in 2022. But this current push, I don't think is going to result in a Masters of the Universe / He-Man movie on December 19th of 2019. I just don't think it's going to happen at this point. So, and look, honestly, I like David Goyer as a writer. So I'm very curious to see what kind of Masters of the Universe he whipped up. Whether he's directing or not, I am curious to see it. I think there's a lot of potential with He-Man. I think there's a hell of a lot of potential for some really cool stuff there. But, pardon me, guys. But it looks like this thing has never been really put together right to move forward. And we're just going to have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys interested in a Masters of the Universe movie? Are you interested in a He-Man movie? Jump into the comments section and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Kevin Mayer, who writes, "Hey John, love your show. Thank you so much, Kevin. My question is, why aren't movie makers using the full size of TVs by now? Almost everybody has a flat screen TV in the 16 by 9 format. Why are there still so many movies with these annoying black bars?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, Kevin. And this is something that comes up like more often than you would think. Now, of course, this issue of the black bars was a bigger issue and always talked about back in the day when I was a kid, when all of our TVs were 4:3, right? There were more boxes than they were like widescreen. Because now the standard is 16 by 9. Everybody has 16 by 9 now. Most tablets are 16 by 9. Most laptops, or not all of them, but most laptops are 16 by 9. Almost every television is 16 by 9, almost. Most computer monitors are 16 by 9. It is the standard home screen size. Back in the day when it was 4:3, you used to get the black bars a lot more. Why? Because movies are not shot in 4:3. They're shot in a wider screen angle, right? They're shot with a wider screen in mind. Aspect ratio. So what would happen is, when you would take that movie and want to take it to home video, you had a choice. You either cut off the ends of the picture so that you're left with a picture that fit a 4:3 screen. So there would be no black bars on the top and the bottom. However, there were portions of the video on the left side and the right side that were being cut off, so you just couldn't see them. Also, you wouldn't have to have those black bars on the top and of the bottom of your 4:3 screen, because the picture was naturally this wide, right? It's naturally this wide. You want to fit the 4:3 screen without having black bars? In that case, you got to cut off the ends, get rid of those, and bring it up, and then you'd have 4:3. So we all know that, right? That was the bane of some existence. I remember having arguments with my dad, even when I was a kid. Why do they put those black bars on there? Dad, they're not putting black bars on there. There's just nothing, there is no picture above that. They're showing you the full picture. But they're cutting off the top and the bottom. No, Dad, listen to me. They're not cutting off the top and the bottom. That's just the way, that black area is just there because they're fitting the entire picture into the screen. But why are they cutting off the top and the bottom? Go sit down, Dad. Just go sit down. Anyway, I remember having these conversations with my dad. So the question then becomes, well, wait a minute. Now we're in the era of widescreen TVs. We are 16 by 9. We're widescreen. Why do we still get movies with black bars? And here's why. Because most movies, especially big Hollywood movies, are not shot at 16 by 9. The aspect ratio for a lot of Hollywood movies is wider than 16 by 9. Always have been. So even though the wider screen lessens the problem considerably, it's still a choice that studios and distributors have to make when they're putting out their movies on home video. Do we put in the entire picture, which will leave black space at the top and the bottom, or do we cut off a bit of the ends so it fills the whole 16 by 9 screen? Now, granted, because it's a 16 by 9 screen, you're not cutting off as much off the ends as we used to have to do with the 4:3 aspect ratio. But films, motion pictures, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Avengers: Infinity War is not shot in 16 by 9. They're shot at a wider film to fit movie screens. So when they bring them over, when you see a movie, Kevin, now on your home television, your home theater system, and it doesn't have black space at the top and the bottom, that movie has had its ends cut off to fill the screen that you have. Granted, not as much as the ends as the 4:3, it's probably just a little bit, but still, you're not getting the whole picture. So that is why still today, and there are a lot of people, like myself, I would rather have a little black space at the top and the bottom to make sure I'm getting the full picture that the cinematographer was shooting. I would rather see that, personally. So it's really all a matter of preference, but that's why it still happens. Movies are still shot primarily in wider aspect ratios than 16 by 9. We have home television systems and computer monitors and laptop monitors and everything that are 16 by 9, which means every time they do the digital transfer, they got to make a decision. Is this transfer going to have the whole picture, leaving a little bit of black space in the top and bottom, or are we going to cut off a little bit off the ends so it fills up the whole screen? It's always going to be an issue until standards change. either the movie industry starts shooting in 16 by 9, or gradually we move to a wider format kind of monitor system. Anyway, I hope that was at least a little bit informative. I'm not the world's biggest expert on this, on the technical aspect of it, but that much I know. Hopefully you found that informative. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Jerry Martin. And Jerry Martin writes, "Hey, John, happy Independence show." Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate that. If the DCEU was to get a reboot, do you think they should recast the current actors or keep them? I would prefer keeping them. How about you? Okay, it should be mentioned, I have taken, not this exact question, but very similar questions as in the past. But I'm telling you guys, at least 20 times a week, I'm getting this question. Be it on Twitter or in my email or whatever, people asking me, hey, if they reboot, and that's a huge question, like, about whether or not they reboot. You know, I think they should. It doesn't look like they will, but whatever. That if they reboot, the question is on thing, should they keep the existing characters? Let me go into, I'm going to give the same answer I always give, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. First of all, let me start with the headline here. Yes, if you reboot, you must recast. You must recast. Why? I like Ben Affleck as Batman. Well, so do I. John, I like Henry Cavill as Batman. So do I. It doesn't change the fact, though, that if you're going to reboot it, you need to recast. Why? It starts with, why would the studio reboot in the first place? All right? Because if we don't understand the concept behind rebooting, then it's difficult to understand why you would need to recast or not recast. Here's the thing. Let's take a look at the Amazing Spider-Man series. We had 2 films with Andrew Garfield. Obviously, Sony made the decision they needed to reboot it again. Anyway, why would you reboot it? Well, there are 2 reasons why you would consider rebooting something that is already kind of in motion. Either number 1, you just felt you've run out of where you can go with that story. Probably much in the lines of what they did with the original Spider-Man series with Sam Raimi. They probably, like they were planning for, but maybe they thought, you know, we've gone as far as we can go with this iteration. Maybe. But the more important one is the example that I think of the Amazing Spider-Man about why you would reboot. And here's why you would reboot. And this is where I think the situation of Justice League is in, okay? And where the DCEU is, and why I believe they should reboot. I believe it would be the healthiest thing. Here's why. The other motivation behind rebooting is this, is when you believe as a studio that the audience has either A, never bought into, or B, has abandoned your brand. As it is, the current iteration of your brand. If you are a studio that believes, hey, for whatever reason, the audience either never really got on board with us, or they were on board at one point and they kind of ditched us and they've given up on us. If that's the case, then you sit back and go, okay, maybe we need to reboot. And we saw Spider-Man do it with incredible success. Incredible success. Sony believed that, even though I like the first Amazing Spider-Man, I actually like very much. I think that first Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, and I think Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. I love that movie. I didn't hate The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as much as some people hate it, but it was definitely a huge step down. It was a big step down. And the money took a big dip. And Sony believed audiences abandoned this. The audience is not on board with this. And now, I don't know this for a fact, but Sony was saying that, and I believe The Amazing Spider-Man 2 actually made more money than Justice League. I could be wrong about that. Let me double check. So Sony, yeah, they did. So Sony looked at the results they got from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It only made $708 million, which is like $50 million more than Justice League made, but it only made $708 million. They heard the grumbling. They saw the downward trajectory of the box office, and Sony decided, instead of investing more money and more energy and more time in kicking a dead horse and trying to get the Amazing Spider-Man 3 going and trying to win back the audience, they believed, let's cut bait, let's start again, and let's make sure the audience knows this is a fresh start. Okay, so that's why you do it. You do because you believe the audience isn't coming along with you. The audience has kind of rejected what it is you're doing. Sony looked at their results with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and they determined the audience is turning away from this franchise for whatever reason. Maybe because we didn't do a good enough job or because of whatever, but whatever the reason is, they turned their back on us. What is our best course of action? To just cover our eyes and ears and mouth and go, nope, let's just keep moving forward. That, according to them, wouldn't have worked. I believe, even though I like all the DCE movies, the fact of the matter is, when you look at it objectively, and you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics, it looks pretty clear that, generally speaking, the audience has abandoned the DCEU. How else do you explain their crown jewel, Justice League, which should have been competing with Avengers? It's got the greatest superheroes of all time in it, in Batman and Superman and the third member of that holy trinity, Wonder Woman, you got Flash, you got Aquaman, all in there. And it does this. And it makes the lowest amount of money out of any DCEU film. In what should have been your biggest DCEU film, by a mile, it should have been your biggest DCEU film. I'm sorry, but if you want to take the fanboyism out of it, take all that kind of stuff out of it, take whether I like these movies or I don't like these movies, take all that out of it. Just step back and look at those facts. I think you need to take a page out of Sony's playbook and reboot. But anyway, that's not really, whether or not they should reboot is not the topic here. The topic is, if you do reboot, why must you then recast? It's because of this. When you're rebooting, if you understand that the reason we're rebooting is the fact that we feel that the audience has not got on board with what we're doing, then you must make it very clear to the audience you are starting fresh. This is something completely different. And the most important thing you got to do then is recast. If you want to say to the audience, we are starting over, then you don't bring in the same faces. Because for all the people who aren't on board, and I don't understand why there are a whole ton of people not on board with Henry Cavill's Superman. You know, I think he's the best Superman we've ever had. I love Henry Cavill. But I'm not going to let my own opinion cloud my objective, viewpoint, which is clearly a whole ton shit of people don't like Henry Cavill's Superman. I don't know why. I think y'all are crazy, but that's your opinion and you're entitled to it. And if that's the case, then you don't just do, oh, well, let's just start the story again and just have the same actor in it. You're not going to get, if you believe as a corporation, as a company, that the audience is not on board with what you're doing, you're going to get them on board by putting just the same faces on the thing, because to the audience, it's just going to look, it's the same thing. Now, I'm sure there's somebody trying to make a desperate argument against that going, well, John, you're okay with, James Earl Jones doing the voice of Mufasa again. This isn't a reboot. This is a new vision of it, and it's just an animated voice off an extremely successful original animated film, and there's a novelty to it. This isn't the situation that The Amazing Spider-Man was in, or that I would argue that the DCEU is in, which is the audience has been jumping ship. That's a different. So if you want to talk about the James Earl Jones just doing the voice of an animated character who's in 1/4 of a movie, fine, you go do that. But this is a totally different situation. This is a totally different set of circumstances. So if you ascertain that the audience has been jumping ship on our property, Sony looks at it and goes, okay, what's our best move then? Our best move, reboot. Put in a new actor. Even though I loved Andrew Garfield, I know Sony loved Andrew Garfield. Sony loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but that's irrelevant. If they believe they got to get people back on board, they got to show the audience this is starting all over again. And you can't do that effectively if you have the same face. So they removed Andrew Garfield. They swept the old thing away. They rebooted to tremendous success. Tremendous success. I mean, that's what Marvel did with Hulk. They put out that first Hulk movie. It's like, didn't do so great at the box office, and the audience didn't respond to it the way we hoped. So what, do we just keep going with it? No. They rebooted the Hulk. Now the Hulk is one of the most beloved characters in the MCU. But you had to change faces in order to do it. look, there are a number of cast members in the DCU that I love, but there is absolutely there's just simply no objective, valid argument. Again, you may think they shouldn't reboot DC at all, and that's a totally different question. Whether they should reboot the DCEU is a completely different question. Totally different question. And that's a separate debate for another time. All I'm saying is, if you also believe that they should reboot, if, and only if you believe they should reboot, and if they do reboot, I just don't see any valid argument against recasting the whole lot. There were a lot of people who loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I was one of them. A lot of people loved him. But if you're going to reboot, then you need to reboot. There's a lot of people who love Henry Cavill as Superman. I am one of them. But if, and that's the huge if, but if you're going to reboot, then you got to reboot. You don't reboot and then just keep all the same faces there. That isn't going to win the audience back. So anyway, that's just my point on it. I just thought I'd go a little bit deeper into it and what I think. Look, if you're a fan of the DCEU, remember, I'm not arguing. I mean, I believe they should reboot, but this isn't an argument about whether they should reboot or not. This is strictly a topic on if they reboot, do you need to recast? And I'm solidly saying that if you reboot, which I don't think they're going to, by the way, but if you reboot, then yes, you need to recast. You absolutely need to recast. Of that, I have absolutely no doubt. Again, whether they should reboot or not, different question. Whether they will reboot or not, totally different question. But if they do, you got to recast. You just simply do. All right, let's move on to the final emailed in question of the day. And the final emailed in question of the day comes to us from BJ. And BJ writes, "Hi, John. Something to ask someone of your my expertise. Short films. Why can't I see them in theaters? Also, why is it an Oscar category? And how long, or short rather, does a movie need to be called a short film?" All right, there's actually 3 questions in there, BJ, but thanks for your question. All right, let's start with the first one. Why can't you see short films in theaters? It's simple. By the way, one of my favorite short films, that Pixar man playing chess with himself, and I love that animation. Anyway, why can't you see short films in theaters? Well, it's simple, because nobody would go see them. It's just that simple. Movie theaters, the way they make money is by putting movies in their theaters that people will come and buy tickets for, and therefore also buy concessions and popcorn and soda and candy for, and go in. When they have movies on their screens that people don't come and buy tickets for, movie theaters lose money. They're not going to fill movie theaters with short films. People aren't going to line up to buy tickets for short films. I'm not dissing the art form of short films. I'm just stating a fact. The vast majority, you're not going to get huge audiences showing up at your local movie theater to buy tickets to go in and watch short films. So if that's the case, why would a movie theater take up one of their screens with short films when they could put in some other kind of garbage, even something that's garbage, that'll get more people out to it and buy tickets, buy concessions, and all that kind of stuff? The reason you don't see them in the theaters is because people would not line up to buy tickets. Short films would never have the budgets to market themselves, so you couldn't even advertise that these little short films are going to be in theater, let alone enticing people to come out and buy tickets to watch them, right? So yeah, you're not going to get them. That's why you don't see them in theaters, because no movie theater manager is going to put them in there. You get the odd special event like short film festivals and things like that book out theaters so they can do those, and that's great. But really, the place to consume short film is online. Really always will be from here on moving forward. So your second question becomes, why is it an Oscar category? Because regardless of the commercialization ability, I just made a word up. Commercialization ability. I totally made that word up. It's very long. Spell it. Anyway, regardless of that, it is still an art form. And making a short film where you got to tell like a beginning, middle, end 3-act story structure in like 10 minutes as opposed to 2.5 hours, that's a unique art form. That's a very different kind of art. And the Academy is all about Motion Picture and Sciences. It's the Academy of Motion Picture and Sciences. It's celebrating filmmaking. And that is a very distinct, separate discipline, short filmmaking. So they celebrate it as such. And I've got no problem with that. Now, as an Oscar viewer, would I rather them take short documentary, short animated, short live action stuff and move those categories to a non-broadcast event? Because the Oscars have a separate event where they give out legit Oscars, but it's for categories that they don't necessarily put on the show. I think they should move those off the Oscar broadcast and just award them at a separate thing. They're still Oscars. They're still real Oscars. I just think they should move them out. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, the last part of your question, how short does a movie have to be considered a short film? It's really up for interpretation. There is no one commonly accepted standard. There are some places that consider a short film something 20 minutes or shorter. I've seen film festivals do that. Sundance, if I'm not mistaken, unless they've changed it, Sundance, their requirement for a short film is 50. That's 50. 50 minutes or shorter. To me, that seems long for a short film. I mean, take out commercials, that's longer than an hour-long episode of television. I don't consider that a short film, but Sundance does. The Oscars are a little bit better, but not much. They consider, to qualify as a short film at the Oscars, again, unless I'm mistaken and unless they've changed it, is 40 minutes. Anything under 40 minutes. So you could have a 3-minute movie being called a short film and a 39-minute thing, and they're both called short film. That seems really weird. One is literally 13 times longer than the other, but they're both considered short film. That seems a little weird. I think that number needs to come down a little bit, but that's just my opinion. So why don't they put them in theaters? Because they wouldn't make any money. Why is it an Oscar category? Because filmmakers consider it a valid discipline in the art of filmmaking. They want to celebrate it, regardless of the commercialization ability. There's the word I made up of the projects. And how long does it have to be? It depends on which film festival you're talking about. I've seen it as low as 20 minutes. I've seen it as high as 50. The Oscars are 40. So there you have it. Anyway, hope that was a little bit informative at any rate. Okay, guys, I said I would save time to take live questions, and we're going to go to that right now. But listen, before we do, I am going to do my daily thing here where I do an admittedly shameless plug, I admit it, and take a 1-minute commercial break to plug my Patreon campaign, the thing that actually keeps the lights on around here. So here, check this out, and I will be back in just 1 minute. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/JohnCampia. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. All right, guys, and a special thank you to all of you guys who are already Patreon supporters. You guys literally are the reason this channel even exists. All right. Let's move on now to the live questions. And we go over here, we're going to start off with Sam Fisher, who writes, did you see the trailer for Disobedience with Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams? What did you think? Yeah, I did. I'm intrigued by it very much. Clearly not a blockbuster. This isn't going to be a $75 million opening weekend thing. But look, whenever you get stories, first of all, I love Rachel Weisz and I love Rachel McAdams. They're great. Whenever you get a story about impossible love, regardless of what the circumstances are that make that love impossible or difficult, I'm a sucker for those, right? I get drawn into that. I'm an old softy at heart, I guess. And I'm drawn into those stories, and this clearly looks like one of those. Two of my favorite female performers in the world right now. So, yeah, I'm totally intrigued by it. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you look it up. Again, it's called Disobedience. The trailer is up on YouTube. Go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's see. This next one comes to us also from Sam Fisher, who writes, I have a branch of my family that is in the Hasidic community, so I feel invested and connected to the story. And I think, that's one of the really special things about these smaller films is quite often they can do representation of certain demographics and people groups that maybe you won't see in a larger film and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool that you get to see that kind of a community. If you have roots in that community, it's really cool that you can see that community kind of played out on screen a little bit. Thanks a lot for the question, Sam. All right, next one comes to us from Jordan Cadwell, who writes, Yo, Campy, have you seen the trailer for the new Amy Schumer movie, I Feel Pretty? Are you on the hate train? As a matter of fact, I'm not on the hate train. Do I think it's the greatest trailer of the year? No, by no stretch of the imagination. But there's something... Here's what attracted me to the trailer. What attracts me to the trailer is the underlying notion that it's 70% self-confidence. It's 70% about how you see yourself. It's not about how others see. Look, I learned a long time ago that I will never know how others see me. I have perceptions of how others see me, but I'm not them. I'll never know how other people see me. I'll never know. Thus, I stopped caring. I stopped caring what other people think. I'm going to do what I feel is right. I'm going to say what I feel is what I truly believe. And then people will take that for what it is. And there's nothing I can do to control them. And therefore, I can't ever really know what somebody's thinking. Therefore, I got to not care what they think. That doesn't mean you don't always try to do the right thing and do the right things. Absolutely you do. But at the end of the day, that's all you can do. You can't control what somebody thinks of you. And the thing I liked about this trailer was the underlying notion that she like Amy Schumer doesn't suddenly magically turn into a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. That would have been a different thing. She didn't. She's still her. It's just that she decides, or it happens to her, whatever, but something shifts. She saw herself one way, and now nothing else has changed except how she sees herself, as she is. And what really attracted me to the trailer was the notion that just having a higher self-esteem, just having more self-confidence, just believing in yourself more, whether it's because you've learned to or because you got a knock on the head from an exercise class, that can change things in your world like a lot. And look, I just kind of believe in that philosophy. That if you believe in yourself and you have self-confidence in yourself and you believe you're worth a damn, then how things play out, that has a lot of power. It changes how you approach things. And if you change how you approach things, you get different results. And look, maybe I'm waxing way too philosophical about a silly comedy trailer like this one. But I gotta say, that concept in the trailer appeals to me. So, am I on the hate train for the I Feel Pretty? Am I on the hate train? No, I'm not. It's not one of the greatest trailers I've ever seen. It's not one of the greatest trailers of the year, no. But I just like that concept, and it appealed to me. So I'm actually very curious about the film. It might end up being a sack of garbage for sure, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see where they go with that concept. And maybe it'll be nowhere, maybe it'll be somewhere, but we'll have to wait and see. Right now, we're just talking about the trailer. That's all we can evaluate on. Alex Brown writes, thoughts on American Crime Story? Never watched it. And honestly, this is one of those situations, quite often people ask me about a show that I've never seen. I say, I haven't seen it, but some friends of mine watch it and didn't like it, or some friends of mine watch it and they love it. I don't even think I have any friends that watch it. I don't remember anybody talking to me about American Crime Story. So honestly, it's a show I've never really watched. Manuel Fernandez writes, hey, John, hope your day is going well. It's going pretty good so far. Have you gotten a chance to see Gotham by Gaslight yet? And will you do a review of it? It's now out on DVD. I honestly don't review either DC or Marvel's little animated stuff. I generally find them all to be crap. There are a few exceptions. There are definitely a few exceptions. Don't get me wrong. There are exceptions. But generally, they don't appeal to me. And now, look, the concept of Gotham by Gaslight is very interesting. Set back in the centuries when the Jack Ripper was around, you got that era of a Batman, that era of, I like the fact that these three little kids are the three main guys we identify as Robin in modern context. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but and I'm not saying the movie's bad. I haven't seen it. I'm just saying I'm not interested in it. That's all I'm saying. So no, haven't seen it yet, so I probably will not be reviewing it. James B. writes, no questions today, John. Just getting ready to enjoy the show and sending a little support your way. Oh, thank you so much, James. I really appreciate that, man. KW Garrett writes, With 2 live shows a day, you don't have much spare time. But what would you ever do? Oh, but would you ever do a video on why you think Star Wars is better than Star Trek? Thank you for all you do. Nah, it just is. Star Wars is just better than Star Trek. It just is. From my perspective, you may think differently. It's totally cool. But you know, that's doing an entire video on why I think this is better than that is just doing a video on, again, on the subjectivity of film. That's why, to me, it is a better film, because to me it is, but some of people won't. So, no, I'm not going to try to make a video that tries to talk people out of loving Star Trek more than Star Wars. I'm not going to make a video doing that. So, probably not. No, it just is to me. Orange Hand writes, best educational show for kids. Well, I don't have kids. And when I was growing up, I mean, the educational shows was like the Polka Dot Door. Only Canadians will understand that reference. I grew up watching the Polka Dot Door, Barbapapa, reading books about Mr. Muggs, and watching Sesame Street. So probably Sesame Street. I don't know. I think today, if I had a kid, I'd probably get him or her watching Bill Nye, the science guy. I'd be probably forcing them to watch him every day. Turn off that Teletubbies crap. Put on Bill Nye. Watch that, because you're going to get rich and take care of me when I'm 90. Micah T writes, John, what's up with the 2-second montage of a trailer before trailers, like in Venom and a couple of other trailers I've noticed this year? I hate it. Will somebody please explain to me whose brain fart came up with, hey, let's put a 3-second trailer to a trailer in front of the trailer that people are already watching? That's a great idea. Who came up with this? If you guys know what I'm talking about, like, for instance, the Venom trailer, right? You press play, but when you press play, there's a 3-second ad showing you little glimpses from the trailer. The Venom trailer. It's like, I know, I'm sitting here watching the Venom trailer. I clicked on the Venom trailer. You don't have to convince me to watch the Venom trailer, because I'm sitting here watching the goddamn Venom trailer. What's the point of this? It's stupid. Why are you giving me glimpses of the trailer when I'm sitting here watching the trailer? What's the point? Why are you doing this? You know, look, it's not earth shattering. It's definitely a first world problem. It's not gonna, it's not gonna change the landscape of cinema. But there is simply no purpose to putting that little thing at the beginning of these trailers. It's utterly ridiculous. I am already watching your damn trailer. I've clicked play. I'm sitting here for you. You don't have to sell me on the trailer. I'm here to watch it. I agree with you, Micah. It's absolutely stupid. I do not understand what their rationale behind that is. I hope they stop. Kalub Lawrence writes, why do movies release digitally a few weeks before they release physically in stores? I've never gotten a straight answer on that. I have a couple of theories. Number one, you can simply get things out digitally a lot faster than you can physically. Because once you got your movie, click upload. There, it's there, worldwide, ready to be viewed. With home video, you got to do package design. You got to physically make the discs, make the cases, do the packaging. Then you got to box them up. You've got to ship them around the world to thousands of stores and retail outlets, tens of thousands of retail outlets across the country and blah, blah, blah. You can, number one, you can just simply get it. It's ready to go a lot faster. I think the second reason, and again, I can't back this up, but I've believed this for a long time. I believe one of the other reasons the studios and the distributors started releasing it on home video or on digital streaming before they do on Blu-ray and DVD is because they believe physical media is dead. And they are trying to condition the marketplace to getting streaming. They're trying to condition the marketplace, which is a sound business move. They're trying to condition the marketplace to getting it, to move away from physical media. They're trying to condition the market to move away from physical media. Hey, you want that Wonder Woman thing? Great. Well, you can wait 2 weeks if you want for the Blu-ray, or you can watch it tonight by buying it on Play or on the Amazon store or on iTunes or whatever. You can watch it right now. Or you can wait for 2 weeks if you want to wait for 2 weeks, but I'm just telling you, you can watch it right now. And they're trying to condition people to get into the habit of it, because the studios clearly believe that is the way they're going. They don't want to make these Blu-rays anymore. Blu-rays and DVDs do not make the money they used to a decade ago. They want to move people away from it. And it's just a lot simpler and easier. So that's my theory. That's my theory on it at any rate. Thanks a lot for the question, Club. Jaden Carter writes, $5 million, but you could never watch, read, or listen to any Star Wars content again. Done. Done. But John, you're like the world's biggest Star Wars fan. Yeah, I know, but $5 million? I mean, $5 million isn't what it used to be, but I could very easily take care of myself, my wife, my family, and my wife's family, and still donate a hell of a lot of money to homeless and starving people around the world. There's just there's no way to justify, no matter how big of a Star Wars fan I am, there is no way to justify with being able to do all that. I can feed 1,000 families. I can set up, I can, take care of my parents for the rest of their lives. I can give a little something to my siblings to make them more comfortable. I can make sure me and my wife are set for life. I mean, $5 million doesn't go as far as it used to, but $5 million is enough to do that much. I can't justify throwing all that away just so I can watch more Star Wars. I'll have to live with my memories. As big of a Star Wars fan as I am, I would just have to live with my memories. Let's see. Eric the Normal One writes, have you seen Sing Street? Just saw it and it was such a great movie. Love your show. Even though you're a Patriots fan. Yes, I am a Patriots fan. Loved that Super Bowl. But a fantastic game. Just a fantastic game. Anyway. Yes, and it's a great movie. It's a great... I will admit, I wasn't bouncing off the walls like a lot of my peers were. Like, I thought it was real good, and I highly recommend it. But I know there were a lot of people who thought it should have been nominated for Best Picture of the Year that year. And I thought, well, I don't know if it was that good, but it's real good, and you should watch it. I think you'll have a really good time watching it. It's just I wasn't in that top 1% like some other people about how good we thought it was, but I thought it was real solid. I enjoyed it immensely, and I recommend it to people. John Hine writes, thoughts on Lucas helping out on a scene in Solo? I don't know if you're reading that somewhere, or if you're just bringing up a theoretical situation. I haven't heard about that. Hey, look, first of all, I don't think Lucas should be involved in any Star Wars films at this point out. I worship George Lucas. I will burn incense at his altar every day for the rest of my life. However, it's good that Star Wars has moved on from Lucas. But if he's helping out for a scene or something like that, look, remember, there's those infamous pictures of, you know what, just in case... Let me bring this up. Why not do this? I can bring this up. Okay, George Lucas, J.J. Abrams. Let me see if I can find... There's this wonderful, wonderful picture. I love this picture. I just found it. Okay, give me a second here, and I'll bring this on screen. This is a picture that came out before The Force Awakens did. And let me see if I can enlarge this picture for you, because I just adore this picture. Like a whole ton. Okay, here we go. So... I love this. This is a picture I would frame and put on my walls. Like, that's something like JJ and George sitting down, talking Star Wars, sharing ideas, JJ picking his brain and all that kind of stuff. I love that. The idea of something like that continuing on, and of George being involved in something like that capacity, coming down, sitting down with Rian Johnson, coming down. Yeah, I'm totally open for that. Totally down for that. Helping out with a scene here and there, sure. But, some Star Wars fans online writing, we want George to direct a new movie. No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't want George directing another movie. Being involved on some level, sure, why not? But directing another movie, no. At least not to me, at any rate. Aiden Norris writes, what are your thoughts on comedy films starring Andy Samberg? Hot Rod is one of my favorite movies, and Pop Star makes me laugh every time. I loved Pop Star. I loved Pop Star. I thought that movie, when I saw that movie, it's like every once in a while, about 3 or 4 times a year, out of like the 200 films I see a year, or more than that, but a couple of times a year, it happens to all of us. I'll see a movie that think, oh my God, everybody's going to love this. And to find out a lot of people didn't, it's like, what? Or come out of a movie and think, oh my God, everybody's going to hate this, and find that it has a bunch of people that like it. And I'll go, what? That happens 3 or 4 times a year. It happens to all of us, I'm sure. Pop Star to me was one of those movies. I thought Pop Star was so funny. And And it's just and relevant at the same time when you thinking about the whole music industry. I thought it was great. I wasn't as big as on Hot Rod. I remember my buddy Chuck Norris, yes, that's his real name. My buddy Chuck Norris was just lauded this movie Hot Rod, and I finally watched it and thought it wasn't all that good, but I'm a fan of Andy Samberg, whether it's with his Lonely Island stuff. I love Lonely Island. Yeah, I'm actually not a fan of his television show, that Brooklyn 199725.6, whatever it's called. I'm actually not a fan of that show. I'm not real big on it, but hey, whatever. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Nathan McDC Marvel X writes, always watching from the UK. You're awesome. Oh, thank you so much, Nathan. I really appreciate that. And the fact that you just take a moment to drop in something like that. I appreciate that. Thank you. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, have you seen the trailer for Hereditary by A24? As a matter of fact, I have not. I did not know that was out. ZCM Z Zombie Custom Maps also writes, if you could only pick one to appear as a guest on your show and talk with you, would you pick Taika Waititi or Guillermo del Toro? Well, I've had Guillermo del Toro in my studio before, so I will go Taika Waititi. I just adore Taika Waititi, man. If you have not seen What We Do in the Shadows, you are robbing yourself out of some high quality stuff in your life. You've got to watch that movie. And when I was at the Black Panther premiere, I literally sat about 2 rows back and about 7 seats over from where Taika Waititi was. And I wanted to go up and talk to him so bad, but I just thought, nah, I'm just going to leave him alone. And I got to meet Taika briefly during a little presentation. This is like 5 months before Thor Ragnarok came out. And they were doing a little media presentation for it. And we didn't know, but Taika was actually there. Taika came in to do the presentation himself, which was great. I had a chance to meet him briefly. So I would go Taika Waititi. Not that I think Taika's a better filmmaker than Guillermo del Toro. Don't twist my words. But I think right now I would just love sitting down and picking the brain of Taika Waititi. Steve Munguia writes, hey, John, I've been a fan of yours since the Man of Steel review. Well, thank you so much. MoviePass has lowered its subscription service to $7.95 a month. Is this service and its new price worth it? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Well, look, first of all, it's a they've said they've temporarily lowered the price to try to get a new influx. They're trying to increase their leverage over the movie theaters by getting more people signed up for it. So that's temporary offer. But even still, the normal price is $10 a month, which if you're going to use the card is infinitely worth it. Now, the question is MoviePass going to be in business very long? I'm not so sure that it is, to be honest with you. But even if it's not going to be in business long, all you got to do is see one movie, and it's paid for itself. All you got to do is see one. You go to 2 or 3 movies a month, you are making money. Well, you're not making money, but you're saving money. Tons of money. If you go to 2 or 3 movies a month, you're saving money. Big money. So I don't know how long MoviePass is going to be able to survive, to be honest with you, but I highly encourage anybody who's a film fan, hop on the train right now. And take advantage of it while it's here, because it's a great deal. It really is. Also, check out another card that I've been using called Cinemia. S-I-N, Cinemia. It's another card. It's a little bit more expensive, but to me, they have better terms and better ways you can use it. But they're both great. You can't go wrong with either of them. All right. The Flick and Critic writes, better Bale Western, 310 to Yuma or Hostiles? They're very different movies. I mean, they're both Western, but they're as different from each other as Westerns can get. And I liked Hostiles very much, but I'm a sucker for 310 to Yuma. I'm one of those guys where, you know where I was saying that I didn't like, what was the musical we were just talking about that I said I didn't like as much as everybody else? Anyway, 310 to Yuma is one I liked more than most people. I was totally, Ben Foster, Russell Crowe, Christian Bale, all crushed it. It's an exciting film. It's a gritty film. I just really liked it. I like Hostiles very, very much. It's great, but I'll go 310 to Yuma. Adamus95 writes, just curious whether Disney now owns the movie rights to Dragon Ball after the Fox deal. Also recommend Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, and it's a ton of fun, dude. Well, first of all, Disney doesn't own anything from Fox yet. Remember, they've agreed in principle to a deal, but that deal isn't made official until the government has done reviewing it and gives their stamp of approval on it, and that could take another year and a half. So right now, Disney owns nothing. Second, I don't know that Fox owns Dragon Ball Z. I think somebody else owns Dragon Ball Z. They may have distributed their stuff through Fox, but I don't think Fox owns Dragon Ball Z. So even if Disney does and the deal goes through and they acquire Fox, I don't know that Dragon Ball Z goes with it because I'm not sure. I'm not clear, but I don't think they're owned by Fox. So that would be a big wrench in that. Lori Scott writes, "Hey John, I'm a big fan of He-Man, and I wrote the comic miniseries that told Evelyn's origin story." Really? Seriously? Okay. Now I'm kind of nervous. Yet I dread a live-action reboot. Do you really think it's possible without it coming across as just plain silly? Oh, absolutely, it's possible. Absolutely, it's possible. Like, I remember me and a buddy of mine have speculated for a long time that if done right, Masters of the Universe could, and if handled this way, could be a great mix of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. And a perfect middle breeding ground for that. And it could be spectacular. Could it end up being just plain silly like the old Dolph Lundgren version? Yep, yeah, it could. There's high potential for cheese. But anything that could be great also comes with the potential that it could be a disaster, right? And it's about whether or not you're willing to roll the dice. And look, what's the worst that can happen? They make the movie and it sucks. Okay, when we sweep it away and we forget about it. But if we get something really good, then we've got a brand new franchise. And we've got a brand new series of films that we can look forward to and enjoy and relish in. So I'm glad they're going to take a shot at it if they ever get around to it. If they do it the right way, and whether or not they're going to do it the right way, we're just going to have to wait and see. But very cool, Lori. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that a lot. Let's see, Cameron Peterson. And by the way, guys, I should have mentioned a long time ago, and I didn't. If you have not sent in a super chat, please no longer send in any super chats because I think I've got more than I can handle. What was I looking for here? I was looking for CM. There we go. CM Peterson writes, "Let's say you were told by Kevin Feige himself that someone dies in Infinity War. Whose death are you betting $5 on? Mine is Captain America." No way, because we already know Chris Evans is shooting stuff for Avengers 4. So I don't think Captain America is going to be it at all. I'll go maybe War Machine. I'll go War Machine. They came close to killing him before. Maybe War Machine, because Iron Man is so emotionally attached to Rhodey that maybe that'll become extra emotional motivation. Maybe... No, I don't think Vision. I don't think Vision's dying. Maybe Hawkeye? I don't think any of the big four are dying in this one, but we'll have to wait and see. Victor's daddy just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much. ZCMZ Zombie Custom Match writes, "After a film is played in theaters and earned its money, does their budget or the money they made from box office go to the marketing for its home releases?" Look, you can't think of it in that terms. You just got to think of it in terms of this. There are certain expenses for the movie. There's certain revenue for the movie. You don't look at it as, does the money that comes from this go to this, this, and this? It's all got to come out of the same pot, right? So don't try to think of it as an individual expense streams. Just think of it as an overall project. And don't look at, well, does this money go towards that? Blah, blah, blah. Just look at it as, how much money did this cost? And home video releases, really, they don't market them a lot. They don't put huge money into home. Some movies bigger than others. But I think, if I had to break it down, I think that they would probably look to recoup that money. But remember, it's all the distributor. The distributor has the rights to all that kind of stuff. So it all comes out of the same pie, really, when you break it down. The Victor's daddy writes, over under Bay wants Wahlberg for Lobo. Keep it filthy. I'll say 15%. 15%. I don't think Mark Wahlberg is Lobo. But who knows? Maybe you could break Mark Wahlberg as a second character in the film. I mean, that's possible too. I'll put it at 15% is where I'll put the over under. ZCMZ Zombie writes, "Have you seen the trailer for the upcoming game made by Hideo Kojima, Death Stranding? It stars Norman Reedus and a train-spotting infant." I have not seen it. I haven't even heard of it, so I can't really comment on it, but your description of it fascinates me, so I'll keep my eye open for it. Who Flung Poo writes, "Don't know about you, but if DC gets rebooted, I'd like a new Batman vs. Superman. No Martha. Love you, John. Have a good weekend." Well, I mean, I don't know that I just want a remake of a movie they've already done per se, but I would like to see. Look, the idea of a conflict between Batman and Superman has been amazing ever since The Dark Knight Returns came out, like in the 80s. That's been something we were dying to see. I wouldn't mind seeing that play out again. I just wouldn't want another movie, Batman versus Superman, again. You know what I mean? But definitely have that, maybe build up to that conflict, the differences in ideology, and how that could put them on a collision course with each other. I love that. ZCMZ Zombie writes, thoughts on Eagles fan eating horse poo? Never heard of that, and I'm not happy that you just put that image in my head. ZCM also writes, have you watched Electric Dreams on Amazon yet? No. Again, I don't watch a ton of television. I just don't have time to watch a ton of television. But that is, and I'll be honest with you, there's some shows people bring up that I say are on my queue list to binge. That's not even on my list, to be honest with you. So it's pretty far down. Luis Garza 1000 writes, does The Incredibles belong in the conversation of top 5 superhero films of all time? Also, did you like the new Incredibles 2 posters? Yeah, I like the posters. Nothing special about them. They're fine. No, I love The Incredibles. I love The Incredibles. But they're not in my top 5 superhero films list. Maybe in my top 10. Maybe more likely in my top 15. But no, certainly not in my top 5. Nathan McDaniels X writes, or Nathan DC Marvel writes, what do you think of an anime-style Star Wars show? Sure, why not? Look, anything you can say, what do you think of a this? If you do it well, sure, why not? So if they wanted to take a shot at it, I'd be all fine for it. Whether or not it works out or not, we'd have to wait and see. Let's see, Santiago Paz writes, thoughts on an anthology Star Wars show similar to Black Mirror. Could really expand the universe and bring us cool new perspectives. Very difficult to do. Because basically you'd be making a mini movie every week. And when you're doing that with something that's relatively low budget as Black Mirror, that's one thing. To do it with a Star Wars universe thing, that's something incredible. I don't know that you can make that cost efficient. I just don't know that from a real logistic, like, would I as an audience dig seeing it? Yeah, that could be neat. But then again, I'd want to see, if you bring up new characters one week, I want to see more of that character. So honestly, I don't even know that I'd be down for it. I don't think it, from a business perspective, that it would make much sense. I don't think you can do it. Maybe you can. I'm just saying, off the top of my head, I think that would be very, very challenging to do. But I think as a fan of Star Wars, I don't know that I'd be down for it, to be honest with you. Who knows? We'd have to wait and see. Interesting question, though, man. Chris Martin writes, I know I talk a lot about the live-action Lion King. I can't wait to see how the stampede and the final fight at the end is pulled off. Can't wait to see it. Yeah, well, I mean, I still don't know that we can call it live action. I honestly don't know how we're calling it live. It's going to be all CG, right? I mean, the only thing, literally, they shot all of Jungle Book on a soundstage in Los Angeles. They didn't go out to nothing. None of the forest and rivers, none of that was real. Except Mowgli. Mowgli was real. I just don't know. I understand why our first instinct is to call this new Lion King movie a live action, but it's really not. It's really an animated film. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what they've got in mind for it. But yes, I am dying to see it. Cannot wait to see it. Laurie Scott writes, your creation of new clunky words, commercialization ability, always amuses me. Keep it filthy, John. You watch. Put it in the dictionary. Commercialization ability. Commercialization ability. Start correcting people when they try to use similar words. Say, I think the word you're looking for is commercialization ability. I think that's the word you're looking for. Put that in the dictionary. Dirk Diggler writes, I agree with everything you have said about the state of the DCU, but I think the biggest problem is Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers made too many mistakes, except for Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. Director, story writer, fix WB. How? Well, I mean, okay, we can say that, and they're the ones who have made the mistakes, but that doesn't change the fact that I believe you still need to reboot it. Even if the main problem was WB, that's fine. The problem was WB. It doesn't change the fact that you need to reboot it. It doesn't change that fact. Why it needs to be rebooted is one question. Is it WB? Is that why? But it's still, you're in the same place that it needs to be rebooted. Then you can make a valid argument, but I mean, if you reboot it, you may not be in any better of a position if it's still the same leadership making the same mistakes. I'm not going to disagree with you there. All we can always do is just hope they learn from their mistakes and grow from them. But, I mean, maybe that's a pipe dream for us, Dirk. I mean, I just don't know. I think, look, I was a big supporter of Kevin Tsujihara for a long time. Those of you who watch me over the years, you know I'm a fan of Kevin Tsujihara. And the way he has shepherded the rest of Warner Brothers has actually been pretty damn good. But I think he needs to just say, look, let's really give our DC division some autonomy, and let's set a new studio head for that. And I'll just approve budgets, and I'll just do my CEO thing, but for the most part, I'll let DC run its own thing. Maybe that's the answer. I'm not really sure. Hardboiled Entertainment writes, John, your Patreon commercial cuts off at the end. Well, I mean, yes, that has something to do with the way I cut in between shots, and it does things. So I know it cuts off at the end, but I mean, really, the ad is over anyway. I've got to fix it. I know when I have time to do it. But you are not wrong when you say that. Hardboiled. Santiago Paz writes, favorite Fincher movie? Mine's probably Seven. Let me just pull up a list of his movies, because I always seem to forget a couple when I bring them up. Because off the top of my head, I want to see this. I want to say The Social Network. So, but let me just bring up. Oh, I really love Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. There's that one as well. Yeah, I'm going to stick with my first thing. I think. Oh, and then there's Gone Girl. I love Gone Girl. Maybe I'll stick with The Social Network. Yeah, I'll go with The Social Network. Let's see. Dakota Barber writes, you should check out Anime Erased. It's on Hulu. Okay. I've never even heard of it, but thank you for bringing it to all of our attention, Dakota. I appreciate that. John Hine writes, over under 40%, you ever let your Patreon ad finish? Well, it's cut off. You know, it ends abruptly, so I will go under on that. I'll take the over because I'm going to remake the Patreon ad. I am going to remake it when I have time, so it will eventually finish out. Kevin King writes, John, have you ever seen the anime Perfect Blue? Anime psychological horror. Satoshi Kon was the best. Never heard of it. Never seen it, nor have I ever heard of it, but now you've put it on a bunch of people's radars, Kevin. Laurie Scott writes, voice acting performance Oscar? Why isn't there? No, and there shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. I just, going into a sound booth for 3 days shouldn't get you an Oscar. And a lot of these times, that's basically it. It's 2 to 3 days. They go into a sound booth. And no, I don't think there should be. I'm really against it. There is so much to acting that I would be more open for a motion capture acting performance, because at least then it is their voice, it is their movements, it's all that kind of stuff. There's a lot more of the performance that you see on screen. With voice acting, nah, I'm not. Honestly, I'm not down for it. I have a huge amount of respect for professional voice actors. You've heard me talk about that a lot over the years, how much I believe professional voice actors are underappreciated, but I don't think you create an Oscar category for it. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. ZCMZ Zombie Custom Maps write, they show a sneak preview in front of the trailers since they're presented as ads for videos. But you're watching the video. There's no point to advertise the video for a video you're already watching. It's like watching Monday Night Football and watching the Patriots versus the Giants on Monday Night Football, and then they break away to commercial. Hey guys, this Monday night, actually right now, make sure you watch Patriots versus Giants. I'm already here. I'm on the network. I'm watching the game. Why do you have to do that? That's the part that I don't get, man. Santiago writes, the 5-second montage is for the ad, so you can skip after 5 seconds. Tempts people to stick around, I guess. I don't really think so. I mean, I don't see that being the maybe. Cameron Peterson writes, they put the mini trailer so that people scrolling through programs like Facebook, where it autoplays, will more likely click on it. YouTube beats me. Okay, see, I still disagree with that rationale, but Cameron, what you just said to me is probably the one, even though I still don't think it makes sense, that's the one that makes the most sense for things like Facebook or whatever. But even then, I mean, they get the vast line share of these views on YouTube. So it's a quandary. I want to talk to a studio rep to tell me why they do this stuff. Salil writes, hey John, with all studios focusing on streaming, Would all theaters gear up and convert to large format IMAX or shut shop? That's a bigger question than we can really go into right now. I think that's a larger issue. All I'm going to say is this. The movie theater industry needs to make some changes and put their focus back on the customer experience. They need to put their focus on the movie-going experience. If they do that, they'll be just fine. But it's, again, Salil, you're asking a much bigger question than we have time to go into here. Mr. Sandman writes, John, Johan Johansson was found dead yesterday. I am not sure off the top of my... I'm going to kick myself, I'm sure. I'm not even sure off the top of my head who Johan Johansson is. Oh my God, that's right, the composer. I did not hear about that. I did not hear about that. You know, there are several guys who died yesterday that I saw had passed away. There was that one dude from The Wire and, pardon me, and House of Cards. That guy. Oh! He was also Johnny Storm's and Johnny and Sue Storm's dad in the new Fantastic Four movie as well. That's right. He just had one of the best voices like in the world. I was so sad to read about him passing away too. Yeah, and there was one or two others as well. Yeah, there were a couple of celebrity deaths yesterday that were really sad to hear about. Brian Diaz writes, I know you aren't a Dragon Ball Z fan, but I would recommend Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball Z. And nope. Sorry, Brian. I appreciate it. I have wasted enough of my time on Dragon Ball Z. I'm not watching. I've given it a shot. Not to say that it's crap, but I've given it enough shot to know that it's not for me. It's not for me. I've wasted enough of my time. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be for you or for other people. But I've wasted enough of my time on Dragon Ball Z stuff that I know it's not for me. So it's like I don't like beer, right? But I constantly have people, like friends might tell me, oh, but try this beer. This beer you'll like. Fine. No, it's beer. I know I've drank enough beer to know that beer is not for me. I know that's sacrilegious to say as a Canadian, but I've drinking enough beer to know that beer is not for me. Let's see. Adam K writes, do re-releases always add to a film's box office? Yeah, if you re-release a film in theaters, that total does go towards your overall box office. It does. Whether it should or shouldn't is a debate we could have, but that is the way they do it, as far as I understand. Carlos Cameo writes, directors whose career is over because of them... So I don't know what you're asking, Carlos. Director whose career is over because all of them suck. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, man. You got to be a little... Remember, guys, when you're writing in something, read it over to yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, will anybody else be able to understand what it is I'm asking? Because I'm not quite sure where you're getting at. Brian then writes, final question of the day. Thoughts on Prisoners starring Jackman Gyllenhaal? I think Denis Villeneuve's best film. Probably. It's magnificent. It's a wonderful, character-driven, torturous, emotional film. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. And if you guys have not seen Prisoners, I suggest you guys give it a shot. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this Saturday installment. I go a little bit longer than I do Monday through Friday on the Saturday shows. Thank you guys so much for participating and being part of this. Remember, guys, everything I say is just from my own perspective, my own opinion. You can have your own different opinion of it. Jump down to the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Also, guys, make sure you click the thumbs up button. Become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Keep up to date on everything we got going on here on the show and on my channel. And, of course, guys, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram simply at John Campea. That will do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.